Iran's new plan to clamp down on internet access. After carrying out a week-long shutdown of internet services in Iran, mobile internet remains extremely limited. Meanwhile, the regime plans to limit further internet access in Iran in fear of the eruption of more popular protests. The Iranian regime's communications ministry has told all subsets of the executive branch to create an Excel spreadsheet of all foreign websites and online services they need, and to send it to the National Information Network Administration. NIN is a state-run intranet that will have very limited interface with global online services that are beyond the Iranian regime's control. The information will be used to create a whitelist, which means Iranian organizations will only have access to the sites and services included on the list. All other websites will be inaccessible. Shocking admission on Iran protests by Interior Minister. Hundreds of thousands of people took part in the Iran protests earlier this month in at least 100 areas of Tehran and most of Iran's provinces, the regime's Interior Minister said Tuesday. Rahmani-Fazli said between 130,000 and 200,000 people took part in the Iran protests. The protesters demanded regime change. The Iranian opposition was behind much of the protests. The protests took place in 27 of Iran's 31 provinces. A state of emergency was declared in 5 of Iran's provinces. Protesters destroyed at least 50 police and army centers, 140 government centers, 183 police vehicles, 9 seminaries, 731 state-affiliated banks, and 70 gas stations. These are only a percentage of the Iran protests, as Iranian officials and state media have been trying to minimize the widespread nature of the Iran protests. Teenage girl killed by the regime's security forces. The National Council of Resistance of Iran issued a statement declaring that the number of those killed in the Iran uprising exceeds 450. Recent reports say a 14-year-old girl was slain in Tehran. Nikita Espandani was shot in the head by security forces on November 16th. Her family looked for her for 3 days before they could receive her body. Regime officials told her family that since she was only 14, they would not ask for the cost of bullets. She was buried on November 20th. UK lawmakers condemn Iran regime for bloody crackdown on protests. The British Committee for Iran Freedom has strongly condemned the Iranian regime for its massive crackdown on the ongoing Iran protests. In a statement on behalf of the committee on November 26, Professor Lord Alton of Liverpool said, "We also condemn the Iranian authorities for the near-complete internet shutdown for over a week, cutting off the entire country from the outside world and paving the way for its security organs and the paramilitary Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps to brutally crush the peaceful protests." They raised concerns over the 400 protesters killed by security organs, the 4,000 wounded, and the over 10,000 arrested who are being threatened with execution by hanging by the state media, regime officials, and the judiciary.